Hello, I am Arion.
Prometheus.
We're book zealots. Welcome to our afternoon tea. I just want to start with this big black monstrosity right here. Not affiliated, not getting kickbacks in any way, shape, or form. But if you know us and have known us long enough, we are
Tea aficionados?
very particular about our loose leaf tea. And this is the company, I don't know if you all can see that. This is the company we get it from. They are out of South Carolina. Excuse me. The company is Oliver Pluth & Co. Company. We get the Earl Grey. And yes, this is by the pound. And yes, we buy more than one at a time.
The proper way.
The proper way, yes. And so, loose leaf tea. It is the best loose leaf tea that we have ever had, which is why we are loyal customers. Again, no kickback of any kind. No, they're not sponsored, blah, blah, blah. You know, all that. No. I am shouting them out because thus far, they are the best tea that we have ever had. So how did we find out about them?
I have no idea.
It was either Colonial Williamsburg or Biltmore. One of those. And I just want to point out, this is from Biltmore. And yes, I don't think I bought the whole set. I think I just bought the teacup and 2 cups. So Prometheus is using the cup. I am not. I have something else. And I think it's Haviland, Bavaria, China, but I don't know the pattern name or anything like that. And we have a hodgepodge right now. Notice that Prometheus is getting food the entire time I'm talking. It's so funny. So we have cucumber sandwiches.
Foul technological device.
Doesn't he look so handsome? Thank you. Did I take a picture of the scones? I'm pretty sure I did.
You did.
So we have tea, scones, cucumber sandwiches. Oh, forgot to make the
Egg salad.
I forgot to make the egg salad. Well, I'm kind of glad that I didn't, though, because we didn't have enough bread.
Yeah. Oh, well, we shall just have to salve the soul with some cucumber.
Thank you for getting my own sandwiches. Anywho, so obviously this is supposed to be for Jane Austen July. I think afternoon tea was not quite in vogue yet. I think they took tea, but it wasn't afternoon tea, which started with the Duchess, I believe.
Tea is to be consumed at all hours of the day.
Right, but not afternoon tea. Afternoon tea didn't become a thing until after some Duchess required some substance, although this is a meal in and of itself. It may not seem like it, but you get filled up pretty quickly. So we have mock Devonshire cream and the Earl Grey tea, and we put sugar in it, only we don't do cream in our tea anymore because of dairy protein issues. It's genetic. What can I say? The irony, I think we got it from the Dutch side. But doesn't he look so handsome? Sorry. So where did we get the shirt? Dad?
Goodwill.
Oh, Goodwill? And the vest from Goodwill. Yes. See, you can dress nice on a budget. Very nice. All right, so how are the sandwiches?
Exquisite.
Mm. So what I put inside the sandwich was cream cheese with seasoning. It's a seasoning that Prometheus has concocted for me because, what was the name of that brand that we used to get?
The Spice Hunter.
Spice Hunter changed up the kind that I normally get. It's the pork and steak, the steak and pork chop
Broil.
The what?
Steak and pork chop broil.
Broil. Okay. So it was that seasoning, but they changed it, and it wasn't for the better, in my opinion.
It included fennel.
Yeah, I
Yes.
don't like fennel. I hate fennel. So Prometheus concocted it, and now we just buy all of the ingredients and make our own, and
Now,
Spice Hunter has lost her business.
and now that you mention it, it has been a decade since I've done that.
Wow.
Because it was in 2015 that I did it.
And that was before we moved here.
And that was before we moved here.
Wow. If you have never had afternoon tea, I highly recommend it. I did not put sugar in my tea. What? I'm a savage?
Yes.
No. That just proves the good quality.
True.
Yes.
But I also find it funny considering your cup is closer to the sugar.
True. What was I going to say? Oh, so we also have a tier, which I didn't put on the table because it would be in the way. But there's a tier where you put 3 plates so that you can have the sandwiches, the scones, and then the desserts. Yeah. I don't have a fancy one, though. We need to rectify that. Right?
Yep.
You already on your second cup.
Yes.
And then I don't remember where I got these, but aren't those cute? Can you see little teapots? I don't know if you can see them. I'll have to take a picture of it, but they're super cute. And they're little just teaspoons for your sugar, for your cup. You want to talk books? What do you want to talk?
Well, we could talk about the political situation that Britain had, and how it would have been so much more convenient had they simply been a little less taxy. They could have saved a pretty penny on silver had they just waited for Oliver Pluff to come about and produce tea in the South Carolinas, instead of having to practically extortion themselves out.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, what were we growing in South Carolina at that time?
Haven't a clue. Indigo, cotton, maybe a bit of rice. Tobacco.
It's weird that tobacco leaves were used as money.
Well, if you think about it, it's anti-inflationary.
How do you determine denominations?
Oh, you don't. You just have one denomination. Well, you could probably do a denomination if you had quality of leaf. Blight.
And size.
Yeah. Hand is hands, half hands, arms, I don't know.
Have you ever thought about that?
I think I have a book on it.
Do you really?
The Emancipation of Virginia from Tobacco. Yes, I do have that. I do have that book.
Where's that at?
It's upstairs in my room.
Oh, we have to get it. Can you pause?
By Linda J. Morgan, Emancipation in Virginia's Tobacco Belt, 1850s to 1870s. And Chapter 1, Regional Economy of the Tobacco Belt, the Economic and Demographic Contexts.
Interesting. Can I read that for victober?
Yes, you can.
Interesting. Oh, well, so while we're sitting down and enjoying a cuppa, lovely. Oh, I hope the Devonshire cream is good. I didn't have the proper cheese, the mascarpone, so I had to do an old recipe, and I didn't taste test it. Is it okay? Can you taste the difference? Is it inferior? Satisfactory substitution. I was so mad at myself yesterday because we went to the store and I didn't have it on the list, and the afternoon tea was not on the thought process because we weren't really sure when we were going to do this. Okay, so what I was going to say. There has been a thought that I have been mulling over for about 2 or 3 years now. More so this past year and then now this. So what is it, ladies? Stop talking and get on with the point. Victober. How many of you guys participate in Victober? Well, there's an awful lot of topics, books, authors that are not getting read because Victober is only England, Scotland, Ireland, Wales. Well, there's a lot that happened here in America. Am I right? Prometheus? All the things that happened in America. From 1837 to 1901.
So, you have the beginnings of industrialization, the antebellum period, the Civil War period, the Reconstruction period, the Gilded Age, and the Colonial War era.
I don't even know how many authors because I've tried looking it up, and the internet is a mess and it gets worse every single day. Trying to look up American authors during that time period, keep drudging up the Victober authors, which is extremely frustrating, very frustrating. So here's what I was thinking. We come up with an American time period, not calling it Victober, because I still enjoy participating in Victober. Maybe we do it at the same time, but not call it Victober, obviously. We do not have royalty. We do not have a queen. We do not have a king. I do not want anything called Victoria or Victober, etc., because that era is very much romanticized. And I know that the same thing happens here in America about the Civil War, the antebellum era. It's romanticized. So I don't want to go down that road. But I need help. Kind of like how you all helped with the bingo. So we can collaborate together, and if you think it's a stupid idea, by all means tell me it's a stupid idea and then I'll laugh at you. But it's okay. It's okay. I think there are a lot of books and authors that can be read during that time period that we're missing out on. And that's kind of every single year for Victober is the same authors, the same books. It's redundant, and I want to branch out. If you all have any suggestions, time period, names, how we should break it down, any ideas, let me know. Because I've like I said, I think I've been thinking about this for 3 years now. Did you say about 3 years? And so last year and this year, I'm ready to do something. If we have more people that are willing to join in, we could get the ball rolling. You know, Hawthorne for one. I mean, I don't hear very many people talk about Hawthorne. Mark Twain, poems. Okay, so lately there's been a thing on Thursday poetry or something, and there are a lot of booktubers who love poetry. We could read poetry. There are so many poets that were popular during those time periods. Are you just happy to have food? Do you have any input?
No?
No input?
I would like more focus put onto the wars of the late 1800s, though.
Like what?
Like the Spanish-American Wars. I forget which one, but there were a series of other conflicts that took place. I don't think most of them lasted more than a year. But they were of similar substance, the United States interests getting involved in South American countries.
Okay.
Like, everybody forgets that there were some 30 or 60 Americans that took over, I want to say, like, French New Guinea or somewhere in that region or somewhere along the Central American coast
Mm-hmm.
and started their own country. And then the Civil War kicked off and they just left the government.
You've told me that.
Yes,
I've never read a book about it.
precisely. There's just these little things that are just glossed over of Americans doing American things.
American doing American things because everything was crazy back then. Everybody kind of did what they wanted to do. Would you say there was more freedom back then?
If you could hold it,
Mm.
yes. If you were willing to fight for it, you could have as much as you wanted. If you could afford to fight for it, you could have as much as you wanted.
I'm curious, that book that you had, excuse me, does it have information about the land issues, or is it solely on the economics? Like money, tobacco, etc.
I would assume it's more about the emancipations and the resulting socioeconomics of that, but I don't know if it has anything on the land disputes.
Okay. I don't know, is it me, but these sandwiches are especially good this year.
Indeed, indeed. Well done.
I think it's the quality of the bread. The freshness of the bread. My goodness, how much sugar have you used?
9.
9 as in 9 teaspoons, or 9 as in no?
Not the German. 9 as in the number.
Okay.
Also, why is it that in the Victorian era you don't touch on the Hamburg house? They married in. Include those politics. That opens up a whole new realm. Oh, right. They just do authors. They don't do history.
Okay, so yeah, so that was Austria, though, not. Who did they marry? Oh, you're talking about Victoria's daughters married in.
No, I'm talking about Prince Albert. I think he was from the Hanover House of the Hanover province of the German states.
Right, well, the limitations are you're only allowed to read authors during that time period from the countries I listed.
Well, that is deathly constricting.
I know! I know!
It must have been made by a British person. Only one of them could have come up with laws so constraining.
No offense to all you British folks.
I don't know. I mean, think about all the opportunities you miss.
I know!
Crimea, the Turkish conflicts, the devising of Africa, the beginnings of the British Raj, the Opium Wars, the watching of the German state form right below your eyes.
Are you doing worldwide? I was thinking more America.
Well, this is just things that the British were partially tangentially connected to.
I see.
Because if you think about it, even the Civil War was partially a geopolitics. The Brits made ships for the Confederacy.
Mm-hmm.
That was tacitly approved by the Queen.
No, but you can't read about that.
You are missing out on key principles to understand the time period. It's not right, it's not right. You limit yourself to truly understand the voice of the books, of the people who lived that time period.
So I'm being very American, and I'm breaking out, and I'm breaking free, and I want to include more.
Yes.
But I don't want to call it victober. I'm going to call it something else, because I don't want to overstep and invade, and I just want to expand. Is it very colonial of me? Is it?
Half, of course.
What are you thinking?
I'm thinking of names.
We need names.
American May.
Do what?
American May.
What happens in April? American April.
It just doesn't have the same ring.
It doesn't have the same ring. Is it a fail?
No.
The wheels are a turning. How come you've never read, excuse me, how come you've never read a Jane Austen book?
Because nothing ever happens.
I'm sorry, which book have you started, or did you start, and then you DNF'd it?
None to my knowledge.
I thought you started Pride and Prejudice, but it was a really long time ago.
Perhaps. If I
Go ahead.
go.
No, go.
No, you forget.
It's off topic, but on topic. When I was talking to the lady at, excuse me, when I was talking to the lady at the bookstore, she said, "Oh, it's been a while since I've read Jane Austen. I should read Pride and Prejudice again." And we started talking about Darcy. And she and I are in agreement of the psychology of Darcy. Huzzah! It was very good. It was a quick conversation, but it was a very robust topic, and I loved the fact that she felt the same way, and I expressed to her, I am so excited that you feel the same way and understood that as I did, because nobody else seems to get it, because everybody is so romanticized over it. Their like eyes gloss over. I don't know. If you love Pride and Prejudice, I mean no offense. I just see Darcy in a whole different light. That being said, the Darcy in the movie is so much nicer. And you wouldn't know, because you haven't read the book.
Yes. So, as for why I have not read a Jane Austen book, most of them have to deal with courtships and marriage, no?
Yes.
I'm sorry, that just doesn't pique my interest.
I wonder if that's why Mark Twain hated her. He continued to read her, but continued to complain that he didn't like her.
Guilty pleasure.
So he's a writer. He has a very sharp wit. She had a very sharp wit. Was it just the fact that she's coming at it from a perspective of a female having to deal with, the only thing we can do is get married and be in a marriage and have kids because, you know, especially back then, women in England had a lot less rights than, say, America. You know, at least if a father died, the daughter would actually inherit, which is biblical. Just throw that out there. Everything tastes really yummy. I am really pleased with how everything turned out. I would even say that this year was better than... Well, did we do it last year? I don't think we did. We've done 2. We've done 3. We did Emma. We did Pride and Prejudice, right? Those are the only 2 I remember.
Tres.
Huh?
Tres.
Okay, I don't remember 3. If we've done 3, let me know. So I did start a Jane Austen book last night, but not a Jane Austen book. Where is it? So I started this one last night, and she was a clever woman or young lady. There is where are my glasses? There is a snippet of a letter she wrote to a cousin. This is hilarious. Cousin, conscious of the charming character which in every country and every clime in Christendom is cried concerning you, with caution and care I commend to your charitable criticism this clever collection of curious comments, which have been carefully culled, collected, and classed by your comical cousin. The author, and there's a footnote, or an endnote. Yeah, for dating, see the ends, page 469. Oh, wait. I don't have to share. Prometheus made this for me. Isn't that so cute? So cute. My little sea turtle. So cute. Okay, so far, and I'm not even that far into it. I'm still in the introduction. I'm loving this. I had no idea she was that clever. So why didn't Mark Twain like her writing?
Thought she was capable of more.
Oh, maybe writing something other than courtship.
Yeah. It's like, you have the wit for it, why do you not use it?
Yeah. Well, I'd also like to point out that in history, women authors wrote about people they knew. The Brontes are a prime example of that. I think Charlotte is probably the worst for that, writing straight up about people in her life. The Professor, as an example, was actually, wait. That's right, about her professor. So is it fiction? Is it?
Historical fiction?
Maybe.
Life novelization?
Right? So, and she's not the only one. Virginia Woolf did it as well. The Lighthouse is about her family. Orlando is about a woman that she loved, so much so, like it wasn't even veiled, that the woman in Orlando, the mother read the book, recognized her daughter in it, and was horrified, and wrote Virginia Woolf and basically a cease and desist letter. Like, you better knock that off. She was a baroness and said, you don't knock this off, there are going to be some problems. And I'm sure she meant monetary problems, which she had already had. So everything that Virginia Woolf wrote was her life. She is in every single book, fictionalized. And so the people in her life are also in the book. So obviously I'm going to wonder, for Jane Austen, how many of the characters are people she knows? Are they exact? Maybe not. But back then, I'm wondering the people in her life or the surrounding people, you know, like just outside of her circle, they had to have known who she was talking about. Prometheus says he's already full. So it's amazing, isn't it?
So now you have the wonders of me staring deeply into the camera without blinking.
So back to Jane Austen. I'm very curious about who she wrote about. There are speculations that people who have actually, literary people, who have studied her books, studied her history, the people in her lives, and who each character might probably represent, which I find fascinating. I do think that she did it better than, say, Charlotte Bronte, because again, in what was the book? The Tenant of Wildfell Hall, the male character, Arthur something or other, it's been a hot minute, while I was reading that, well, I thought I was reading it for the first time and realized it was a reread. While I was reading it, I realized, wait a minute, is this actually about their brother? Because their brother was an alcoholic. So I'm wondering if what the sisters were experiencing with Branwell, she wrote in her story. I don't know. It was very fascinating, and of course I didn't know any of that when I read it in high school, so that was just something that had popped in my mind. What do you want to talk about? Pick a topic. Okay, normally throughout the day I cannot shut him up.
The economic situation of the English Empire during the Napoleonic Regency era?
Sure, go for it. That's historically accurate.
Technically, simultaneously the most connected nation on the planet and the most isolated during the Napoleonic era. Because their navy had dominated both the Spanish and the French navies that had existed previously. Multiple times at this point, but especially thanks to our wonderful friend Nelson, if my memory serves me right. And as a result of that, the French were pretty much stuck to the continent, and this also meant that the British had the interesting problem of nobody could trade with the continent because the French tried locking it down under economic policies by Napoleon. Now, obviously, there were smugglers, and there were countries that tacitly / explicitly ignored that and continued trade to one extent or another. But it did cut down the trade by a bit. And I think this is something that most of the world today has a hard time thinking about.
Mm-hmm.
That was absolutely devastating.
Right.
Because China is still insulated at this point and is basically medieval.
Mm-hmm.
Japan won't open up for another 30 years and is simultaneously is still medieval.
Samurais and all that.
Yeah. The American colonies aren't exactly friends, kind of friends. We still are some of their largest trading partners, but we're still kind of angry at them, and we try to avoid trading with them when we can. Well, we don't avoid trading with them. We trade with them, but we don't like them, and we still have issues from the War of 1812. The War of 1812 is going to arise because of the issues we have with them. Canada is a fur company.
Right.
And so you have
and a lot of the French are in Canada.
Yeah.
Doing the fur trading.
Yeah. So you have questionable loyalties there. So now you find Britain basically locked out of the Western world. The Ottomans are the sick man of Europe, and are still technically the enemies of Europe. A lot of bad blood left over from the 15 and 1600s. Sack of Constantinople is not exactly far from anyone's mind when thinking about that. And so you have this interesting problem where they have all the trading networks to their advantage, but no one to trade with. Because how do you convince an African that he needs clothes? Like a British person, or a Frenchman, or a Dutchman. You just can't convince an African tribesman, and you're definitely not convincing the Chinese to put a suit on. Especially at this period of time, it's just, no, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And so this is absolutely a pain in the neck for the burgeoning loom makers in Edinburgh.
North and South, anybody? What time period was that? That was after, wasn't it?
What?
That North and South, I think, was actually the Victorian era. So it came after the Napoleon thing. But that what you said about the loom just made me think of that.
Yeah. Which definitely slowed things down.
Yeah, it definitely slowed things down because that industry could have boomed so much sooner.
Had they had access to the European markets, which needed clothes fairly cheaply.
Right.
And well, Russia continued to trade, but Russia has no warm water ports, or none of note.
What was happening on the Silk Road during that time period?
Silk Road was dead.
When did it die?
The Ottomans.
Because of the piracy, the Highwayman.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that poem, The Highwayman.
Yeah. Overland trade kind of dies out once the Spaniards figure out you can go around the coast.
Right.
Because it bypasses the 6 to 8 months one-way trip to the place.
Yeah.
And minus a couple of storms, pretty much avoids all of the piracy issues. You're not going into the Mediterranean, and at the time, only the European countries were capable of deep oceanic travel. Everyone else stays within a few hundred miles of the coast.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, a lot of them did use the coast to travel sometimes, but they had the option to disappear into farther waters, which is not something a lot of coastal fishermen were willing to risk.
Right.
So,
At that period of time, it was mostly Spain and who am I thinking? Who had the bigger ships?
Dutch.
The Dutch were traveling?
The Dutch.
Okay, so Dutch, Spain, and who else?
Portugal. Because Portugal technically got most of Africa, if my memory serves me right.
They did. There was nobody else. So I know for the longest time, England ruled the waves.
Yes, from the Spanish Armada era, technically, and throughout the 1700s, although they were still contested.
Mm-hmm.
And then into the 1800s, there was pretty much no navy that could compete with them.
And then who came after that?
After the British,
Right.
technically us.
Okay.
With a
So, and then we were just starting to, like, get our navy, our shipping, during Napoleon.
yes.
Okay.
So being locked out of the European markets was just a real economic constrictor that probably slowed down It slowed down industrialization by a good decade, I'd say,
Mm-hmm.
just due to the fact that most of the money lenders were lending to the government for the war. Most of the skilled labor is going into producing firearms. And this is still in the era of black powder, which means that nitrate production is absolutely critical for multiple reasons. And I don't know if they found this island yet, but there would be an island found off of the coast of South America, I want to say on the Pacific side,
Okay.
that was immensely valuable because it was a seabird nesting ground
Okay.
in the middle of nowhere. And it apparently had been that way for centuries. Because there are literal feet of bird droppings.
Ugh.
But this is
We're eating here.
but this is an incredibly important part
Okay.
because that is all nitrates.
Okay.
It's
Good soil.
it is an incredibly good thing for gunpowder production.
Oh. Okay.
Because at the
Who came up with that? Who discovered that?
the chicken poop?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Hmm.
But you're talking about such a critical resource that the government had put into law the legal right to scrape the dirt out of your chicken coops to get more nitrates.
Wow.
Because Europe, I think, does not have a single nitrate deposit of any worth. Or it hadn't been discovered up until that time. And so everybody was critically trying to get more steel and more nitrates. And steel is an important part of industry.
Right.
And at that time, I think it's still being smelted using charcoal. I don't think coal smelting has started yet.
Wow.
And most definitely not on the scale that we would see in
Right. I think the coal came in the Victorian era.
pretty much, yeah. Although that's the interesting part. Coal is being mined,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a limited use for it. Like the first mine in America was in 1701.
Okay.
I think there was also a very large deposit found in the 1700s in Britain, but a coal mine had been operated in Britain since the 1500s.
Wow.
But coal has the problem of you need a lot of air to burn it,
Mm-hmm.
so you need a lot of infrastructure to use it, and that's just really hard to get right.
Wow.
And so it took a lot of poking and health and safety laws not being around until they were needed.
There was something I was going to ask you and I forgot.
You need to interrupt me.
I know, sorry. I know that sounded like a fart. I'm going to have to tell you that.
But yes, Napoleonic Wars definitely messed with the industrialization processes, and one could argue that it was the Napoleonic Wars that made it possible for Victoria to ascend the throne.
Interesting. Why is that?
Because France was the counterpart to Britain for the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if we go back to
frenemies, enemies, frenemies, enemy, frenemies.
Yeah, I mean, they've been fighting each other since the 100 Years' War of the 1300s.
And they're fighting before that.
They were fighting before that, and they've been fighting after that. The French can't get along with anybody, and the British...
No, they can't.
And the British aren't the most agreeable sometimes as well. They're wonderful people.
I'm just going to put in an addendum there. His grandmother was purely English, so I'm sure she would have given him a really hard time over that comment. No, probably not, because it's not the same. Anyway.
Hey, you are the people who fought some random... Not random. You are the people who fought Argentina for a random strip of land in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. Was that over sheep or something?
Yeah, although technically they did get lucky, and about a decade later they found an oil reserve off the shore, so... Convenient, but at the time there was sheep.
Okay. I have a question.
I have an answer.
Why did Napoleon go to Egypt?
He was sent there by the Republic.
Why?
To get him out of the politics.
Italy wasn't far enough, huh?
Well, that's the thing. They sent him to Italy because that was the sideshow campaign.
Mm-hmm.
The main two thrusts were in the German states, but those stalled fairly rapidly.
Okay.
But Napoleon ended up being quite good at his job and took over the Italian, and it was because of his victories in Italy, making the jab towards Vienna in Austria, that forced the capitulation to be signed at all.
Okay.
Not due to the actual two main people in the north. And that gave him a lot of fame. That was not good because it kind of made the revolution and the government that was in charge of it. I'm just saying the revolution because I don't know which government was in charge then. They've switched governments so many times.
So fast, yeah.
I'm not even going to attempt that. So they're like, okay, this guy can be a problem. We'll set him up over in Italy to just kind of govern things. And then all of a sudden, he turns out to be an incredible statesman as well, drafting up multiple constitutions and government systems, granted kind of self-centeredly, but it was still decent statesman and not just cronyism for the sake of cronyism. And then the French government's like, oh, yeah, we can't keep him near. What is the farthest place that we can cause to get rid of him? The Ottomans were kind of let's send him to Egypt. Just get him off. Hopefully he'll get cut off
Right.
by the British, and he will go away.
And that did not happen. So I want to back up really quickly. While Napoleon was in Italy, he had requested some arms. He was denied by the Black Count. So if you have not read The Black Count by Tom Rees, I believe that's his name, read the book. Fantastic. Very good book. I was impressed by that. We need more tea. Look how much sugar he's putting in that small cup. Too much. Too much sugar.
How dare you poke me?
How dare what?
How dare you poke me? Stop it.
What else? And then when he was in Egypt, somebody that was with him discovered the translation and they created the Rosetta Stone. Right?
They didn't create the Rosetta Stone.
Okay, well they deciphered it and called it
The Rosetta Stone.
the Rosetta Stone. Okay, they didn't create it, but they deciphered it and created what is now known as
The Rosetta Stone.
words.
Because the
Word
Rosetta
order.
Because the Rosetta Stone, I think, had 11 languages on it.
Oh, did it? Oh, I didn't know
All
that.
saying the exact same phrase, or it's believed to have said the exact same phrase. I don't remember exactly what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, they knew one or two of the languages, and therefore could break down the language structures of the other ones, which I want to say included some old Roman, Greek, Egyptian, and maybe Carthaginian or something, Phoenician.
Things like this send me down the rabbit trails because now I want to do a book. I want to read a book about the Rosetta Stone. Do we have any?
No. Not to my knowledge, anyway.
Interesting. Since we've started BookTube and since you have started school, how has your reading changed?
I don't get to read what I want anymore. Not as much. No. I don't have the emotional bandwidth to sit down and read a Stalin or a Mao. Because when I go to try and figure out how to do this integration via substitution, all that's going to be in my head is that in 1934, Mao left his second wife and child in Kunming City despite having the resources to evacuate them and knowing they were in the city, and decided to let them get attacked by the Japanese. Do I need that random piece of history? And it just becomes sad because after a while the amount of violence that just picks up is like, modern movies are violent. No, history is violent.
History is vile. When I read Lafayette, by Harlow Giles Unger, I never knew before that book just how savage the French Revolution was and how violent and savage the people were. Like, they lost their mind. You couldn't trust anybody.
No.
Yeah, the amount of red stuff in the streets, etc., was just... Okay, so I just read that book on the military and the vileness that happened there. That's nothing compared to what was happening in the French Revolution.
St. Bartholomew Day massacres.
What's that?
1500s massacre of Calvinists in France. Anywhere from 5,000 to 30,000 people dead. Small numbers.
Wow. Okay, so we've been going at this for a while. I think it's probably time to bring it to a close. We hope you had a really good time, but I do want to mention one book that I am going to read for one of my bingo prompts. My library had it. Thank you for everyone for suggesting books for what to read on Mexico or set in Mexico. And while I was looking up information on Seabiscuit, which obviously has to do with here in Kentucky, I found The Greatest Gambling Story Ever Told, a true tale of 3 gamblers, the Kentucky Derby, and the Mexican cartel. So, yes, please. I had to. I thought, there's this book that I read before I even moved out here. I think it's called The Bluegrass Conspiracy. Oh my goodness. That does not put Kentucky in a good light. This is by Mark Paul. It's very short. I'm hoping to finish it. I should be able to finish this in a day, huh?
Yes.
Assuming I don't get interrupted. Because here's what happens. Our day. We start the day, we do our chores. We eat our breakfast. We do random other stuff that needs to be done. We come together. We start talking. An hour has disappeared. We go back to doing our chores. And then we come back together again. And then another hour disappears. Because,
we chat.
We chat. We talk about everything. And so before you know it, how is it already 2 o'clock? How is it already 5 o'clock? How is it already 9:40? Yes, every single day it's like that. every single day, which, mind you, I love it. I would rather have the ability to talk about everything than nothing.
Yes.
Or like only specific topics. Because, oh, and here's something really funny too, because somebody mentioned, you know who you are, that they have an argument. It's not an argument, it's a heated debate. It's a heated discussion. No anger or malice of any kind. It's not like that. But Prometheus and I start to have conversations and we both get super passionate and our voices are super loud and we're yelling, but we're not yelling at each other. We're just super... And it's probably really funny if anybody were to see us from the outside, like, whoa, what's going on in that house, you know? But it's not in anger or anything like that. But if we get a newer dog or like a dog, it takes them a while to get used to the volume in our house because we're not all quiet. We're not really quiet people. We are very robust people, just passionate and vocal and love to talk things through and have debates, and our whole family is like that. The loudest person in the entire household is my older son. When you say that, I mean when the whole family gets together, because obviously the whole family doesn't live in our home. Anyway. So yeah, so I'm very excited to get started on this book. So I want to thank everyone who suggested Seabiscuit, because I think Seabiscuit plays a part in the gambling of this. And I'm sure there's some finagling or whatnot that takes place.
No, dear.
Yes.
I don't know what you're talking about. We do all our business here according to the letter of the law.
It kind of sounds like he's from Mississippi, doesn't he?
Unfortunately.
Or do they have a more slower drawl?
It's too hot to speak fast.
Mm-mm.
I'm just saying, I like seeing horses move fast. I like seeing my bank account move up fast. I do not like to move fast.
Yes, it would be too hot. Thank you very much for joining us. We hope you enjoyed the afternoon tea. Again, if you have never treated yourself to afternoon tea, I highly recommend it. It is super easy. If you want recipes, let me know. We don't go out for afternoon tea anymore because we generally do better. We're more satisfied with doing it at home. Better quality.
You Americans just don't understand how to make a good scone. Or finger sandwiches. You keep trying to make it like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It's just not right.
No, it isn't. Or they confuse afternoon tea with high tea. Okay, high tea is where you generally stand up and eat, and you have meat. There is a meal that is high tea. Afternoon tea is not that. You sit down. It's generally a women's afternoon thing, but obviously gentlemen can participate. And it is finger sandwiches, scones, and desserts. And I did not make any of the desserts because the mock Devonshire cream is actually dessert enough. But, oh wait, but you have a dessert.
Oh yes, I do have a dessert.
He has a carrot cake.
I'm full.
He's full, like I said. It's surprisingly very filling, which is shocking. Anyway, please leave a comment down below and we'll chat there, and we hope you have a great month. Jane Austen, July.
Yes.
Bye. What? What? You want to get your carrot cake? What? Oh.
Happy 4th of July.
That actually looks pretty good. Nice. I love it.